In mid-August, 10 people were arrested for suspected money laundering. They are all foreign nationals living in Singapore. This is one of the biggest cases of money laundering in the world.
Dirty money going through Singapore's financial system is not new.
In 2016, Singapore authorities seized more than 240 million Singapore dollars as part of the probe into the misappropriation of Malaysia's State Investment Fund 1MDB. Part of the stolen funds had been laundered through banks in Singapore.
More recently, in June this year,
3 banks and an insurer were fined for breaches related to German payments firm Wirecard. They did not adequately establish the source of wealth from their high-risk customers.
Then in September,
5 others were found to be involved in laundering money from scam proceeds.
in this episode, I delve into the dark world of money laundering. What exactly is it, and how does it really affect you?
Let's start with a quick explanation on what money laundering means.
It all starts with a serious crime such as illegal gambling, drug trafficking, or scams. Through these illegal activities, criminals amass large amounts of cash. But because they don't have any legitimate source of such wealth on paper, they can't use these large amounts of money without raising suspicion. And they can't bank it in either without being investigated.
So they have to clean the illicit money to make them look like legitimate gains, such that traces of its criminal origins are erased. Hence the term laundering. But how does the dirty money magically become clean?
If you want to clean your dirty laundry, then you want to choose the best and the most famous brand.
Lawyer Wilson Ang advises banks, insurance companies and property developers on anti-money laundering laws.
How is dirty money laundered?
There are 3 stages to the laundering of money. The first stage would be placement. Placement is where the illicit proceeds of crime that arise from criminal activities are being firstly introduced into the financial system. This can be done by way of small parcels of cash deposited into banks. It can be by way of the blending of proceeds of crime together with the revenues of legitimate businesses. And usually these businesses would be cash-based businesses in the form of laundromats, of car wash businesses, and even beauty parlors and nail parlors or restaurants. And others would involve the issuing of false invoices in respect of products never delivered or services never provided. And then we move into layering, and this is where it gets complicated, whereby the criminals go through an extended process of transferring the monies from one bank account to another, one jurisdiction to another, and in doing so really seek to obfuscate or to confuse the trail of the money that is going through the system. And in that process, they could be enabled by people who are willing to sell their bank accounts for this use, or by companies that are set up as shell companies with bank accounts, again, that really do not have any real legitimate commercial purpose. And once all that is done, the third aspect is integrating it back into the financial system. And that is done through the purchase of luxury property, for example, expensive cars, jewelry, handbags, and such like.
So why choose a country like Singapore to launder their money?
Singapore is well known as a leading financial center. There are volumes of transactions and funds flowing through Singapore every day. And as a result of our reputation for non-corruptibility and integrity, ironically, Singapore also becomes attractive not just to legitimate businesses, but also illegal criminals and illegal activities. If you want to clean your dirty laundry, then you want to choose the best and the most famous brand for that washing machine. And unfortunately, from a money laundering standpoint, Singapore might well have that brand.
As of early October, 2.8 billion Singapore dollars worth of monies and assets had been seized in the recent money laundering case. That's almost 3 times what it cost to build Gardens by the Bay. I'm about to find out how all this illicit money flowing into Singapore may affect our economy. After reaching out to many economists, I finally came across one who wrote a research paper on properties bought by individuals mentioned in the Panama Papers. He has asked me to meet him here.
So why are we meeting here?
I thought let's pick a place where some transactions may be happening that we document in our paper, which is District 9, District 10.
What was this paper that you did?
There was this, Panama paper leak.
And what are the Panama Papers?
There was a leak around 10 years ago by a law firm. Somebody inside decided to leak all the information of around 11 million plus individuals who had created shell companies through this law firm in Panama. These shell companies act as a front for people to do money laundering or other illicit activities. What we wanted to see is, can we match these individuals who are named in the Panama Papers to real estate transactions in Singapore? And that was around 2,300 transactions. Then we wanted to see, are they paying extra money when they're buying these properties? Because that could be that since they're laundering some money through these shell companies, they may be willing to pay extra. We find they pay a premium of, on average, around 4%. Sometimes if they are buying in good locations like District 9, District 10, they're paying a premium of 7 to 8%. If there is a property in a district like this that costs around, say, $10 million, they're willing to pay around $700,000 extra.
Inadvertently, does that also affect property prices in the area?
Oh, clearly, because the other buyers who have to buy now properties in that area, and the seller says the last transaction happened at 10.7 million. So now the average buyer ends up paying more because of this. Property is the best because property values keep up going up. So they are not only laundering money, they're actually making money out of it because it's a lucrative investment.
And how does money laundering also affect the economy as a whole?
When they are bringing illicit money, they may be engaging in other activities, buying luxury items, jewelry or handbags, expensive cars, and so on and so forth. And that can have broader impact on the economy generally. It can be good or bad because clearly some of this money coming in, you can say, look, it is helping the economy grow.
That's right.
But Singapore has always maintained a clean image that this is a country that does not tolerate such activities. That's the way Singapore attracts capital and talent. And any such activity actually hurts the image of the country, even though it may be helping the economy marginally.
294 luxury bags, 164 branded watches, 546 pieces of jewelry, 62 vehicles, among them luxury brands like Bentley and Rolls-Royce, and more than 152 properties.
The question is, how did the suspects manage to buy all these luxury items, especially high-end property worth millions of dollars, without their source of funds being checked?
Every time we make a sale or a rental, we have to key in this for the client.
Singapore law states that property agents must check their client's identity and source of wealth before completing a sale. But the seizure of high-end properties linked to the recent money laundering case has got me wondering, are these strictly followed? Eric Lim sells luxury properties to high-net-worth Chinese nationals.
We have a very strict anti-money laundering AML system where we will submit an electronic customer due diligence on. Let me show you. For convenience sake, I have keyed in my own particulars. They will have to present us with their physical documents. Then we will have to verify, the name, the ID number, and their date of birth. Is the customer buying for himself or on behalf of somebody, or is somebody paying on his behalf? The next one will be the AML search, where we try to search the client's name and ID against the database of a UN sanctioned list as well as PEPs. As you can see here,
no match is found.
No match.
You actually don't want a match,
Yeah, that's
right?
the green light. That's the green light.
What happens if a match is found?
We will try to narrow down, and if there is a match, then we will have to file a STR. We will have to flag this out to our legal, and we will ask whether it's okay for us to proceed with the deal. The checklist also asks if the property transaction is complex or unusually large. We can check the past transaction in this area for this property, and past transaction may be transacting at 5 million, and this client came in and offered 10 million. So that will flag very unusual.
In terms of complex,
For example, you say, look, I'm buying the property today, but someone is going to make the payment on my behalf. And then there comes the question, why? Or they set up a trust to buy a property and the beneficiary is somebody not related to them. Then that is quite fishy.
it's quite a thorough checklist. But is there any way for you to tell whether they are telling you the truth or not?
Well, we have no ways to detect if the client is telling the truth, especially if the client is coming from a foreign country. There's very little way for us to be able to verify. Some clients, maybe they can provide documents. We cannot tell whether the documents are genuine.
So, is anyone checking on you guys, property agents, whether you've done this checklist?
Nobody is checking on us, but a lot is at stake. Our license can be suspended and we can be imposed on financial penalty.
In the recent money laundering case, some 60 agents were reportedly involved in selling properties to the suspects. When criminals deliberately try to disguise the origins and ownership of the funds, money laundering can be extremely difficult to detect. And that's why law enforcers sometimes turn to external tech providers.
All these accounts are money mules that are helping money launderers to carry out smaller transactions.
This team of tech experts monitor new and existing digital crimes for international banks and law enforcement agencies. Their work helped to crack money laundering operations involving over 1,000 bank accounts. They use a special tool that is able to analyze your activity on banking apps.
We look out for multi-accounting behavior. Essentially, it's when one device is associated with too many users. Let me show you. Each row here represents one single user session.
Meaning, when I take out my phone, I log into my banking app, that is considered one session.
Yes.
What does all this mean?
Okay, so we have some information about the user device, for example, the screen resolution, the number of CPU cores, and also the user IP address.
Which tells you
where you're connecting from, which country you're connecting from also.
Essentially, banks use the software to monitor how you can use their websites or phone apps. The software flags any suspicious activity, and the team deep dives into the data. If it is a fraudulent transaction, banks are alerted. The bank will know who I am by looking at this.
Yes.
These are colored. I'm guessing it means something.
For our alerts, we have 3 different colors. Green signifying it's safe.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah. Yellow, something's weird about it. And we also have red, which means something is definitely up. Let me show you a known money laundering case that we are currently investigating. Okay.
Wow! And these are all individual users, right?
Exactly. In this case, we have detected 1,400 accounts that are associated with one single device. All these accounts are money mules that are helping money launderers to carry out smaller transactions. The first thing is what we call smurfing. It's where they use multiple accounts in order to break down their transactions into smaller amounts. If you have $10 million that you're trying to move, if you try and move them all at once, you're going to raise every single alarm in the bank. So what they do is that they will split this amount up into smaller transactions into different accounts so that it seems less suspicious. The second technique they use is called layering. The first layer, what we have here, is probably where the illegal money originates from. The money it will then be sent to the second layer of accounts where it is partly consolidated there. And then it will be consolidated into the final account, probably where the mastermind is.
Yeah.
When you look at the micro level, it's very difficult to detect such fraudulent activities.
How foolproof is the system? What are its limitations?
There are 2 main challenges that we face. The first one being cash transactions or offline transactions. Once it leaves the ATM machines, we have no way of tracking it because we work by leveraging on the data that we collect. The second challenge that we are facing is when fraud cases happen on cross-platform. So for example, if they transact between a bank and a cryptocurrency wallet, it would be very difficult to track because some cryptocurrency wallets specializes in anonymizing your transactions, your activity, your identity. So it would be near impossible to find out who was behind that account.
During the course of producing this episode, it was reported that $2.8 million worth of cryptocurrency was withdrawn from one of the suspect's accounts after he was arrested. The police were only made aware of these crypto assets after foreign authorities alerted them to it. I now know how dirty money is laundered and how challenging it is for investigators to track the movement of these funds. Which leaves me with one last thing to uncover. What happens to the seized luxury goods when investigations conclude?
Is there a specific auction just for seized assets?
Yes, there are.
I'll tell you if you can get a bargain from seized items.
When suspects are investigated for money laundering, their assets are seized. Now, we tried to find out where the assets might be stored, but the police kept mum. What we do know is that if suspects are convicted, the courts can order the assets to be forfeited to the state. These could then be sold via auctions.
$1,600. So you know, $1,600 out. Do I have $1,600 against it for a floor?
This is Robert Khan. He has been valuing and auctioning private and seized assets for over 2 decades. I want to know if I can potentially snare a bargain at these auctions.
Is there a specific auction just for seized assets?
Yes, there are. They will advertise it accordingly, whether it's a custom seizure, a police seizure. We've done some sales before where the AVA has seized some sandalwood logs before, and then we sell them through an auction.
Aren't we able to get a better bargain, a discount on the items?
Often, because there are many items for auction, most likely you will get a better price from an auction sale.
And why is that the case?
Because these are seized items. If I can use the word, they are motivated sellers as well. Of course, they're guided by valuation prices, but they also have a time factor to consider to realize these items into cash.
Give me an example. Something sells at a commercial gallery for $20,000. At an auction, how much of a deal can I get?
A range of maybe 10-20% lower, 30% lower. But of course, for popular items, maybe a lady's handbag, a sought-after item, the buyers will come and they could bid up the price.
And how would I know if the sale is on?
We prepare e-flyers to be sent out to our mailing list, advertise in the media, social media, to attract and generate as much interest as possible.
Seized assets like luxury bags, watches and jewelry are stored with authorities until investigations conclude, and this could take years. Lawyers I spoke to say the assets should be stored properly so as not to spoil the evidence while investigations are still ongoing. These could be returned to the suspects if they are acquitted or be sold off through auctions if no one claims them. So just like a doctor caring for his patients, these items need to be handled with exceptional care. Leather luxury items like these bags need to be handled with gloves so as to avoid contact with perspiration, which might damage the leather. They also need to be stored in a room with temperatures set between 15 to 23 degrees Celsius to avoid the growth of mold. Thousands of bottles of hard liquor and wine were also seized in the recent case. In this case, we heard the money launderers had gone about and bought a lot of fine wine. In fact, I have a picture here. I'm not sure if you can tell, but are these good wines? You're smiling already,
These are really what I call your super scale collectors or drinkers in that
Why
sense.
are they like super skilled? What
Well,
are they?
for example, like right behind here, you can see there's a DRC, Domaine Romani Conte.
Okay, what does
All
that
right?
mean?
It's a vineyard in the Burgundy area, but it's so highly sought after because they only produce like 2,000 to 3,000 bottles a given year.
Right.
And then even on the launch, if you are not connected, if you don't have the personality to buy it, you won't even get it. Even the launch price, we are talking about easily $5,000 a bottle.
Right, wow. As a wine importer, Richard Lee sells wines worth tens of thousands of Singapore dollars.
In this picture itself, you can see they have quite a lot of bottles.
Yeah.
We are talking about the hundreds.
And I imagine how it's stored is very important as well.
It is very, very, very important. I mean, looking at it, it's so well displayed. I believe they spent quite a good amount of money to renovate the place. They insulate the walls very well. You can tell that this is not your ordinary cellar.
It's not just a room like this with air
No, it's
conditioning
not.
on.
It's well insulated.
Why is that so important?
Because of the humidity, and if it's not stored well, the value of the wines drop
Yeah.
tremendously. If you store it well, the value just appreciate accordingly.
Okay. Give us some idea how much this would appreciate in value. So I buy it now for $5,000. If I keep it for 10 years, roughly how much would it be?
We are talking about in the region of $20,000
Per bottle?
per bottle.
Wow.
That give you an example. If you don't store the wine well,
It still looks like it should.
it looks okay from the outside, but what's important is the inside. If it's stored well, the cork should come out in one piece. If you do not store well, basically the cork has dried up and then it will be brittle. It will break.
Okay, moment of truth. Oh!
This is what happened.
Okay, so now we have a bit of a problem. It's falling apart. So looking at these seized wines, how can we be sure that they would appreciate in value?
In that condition, generally they are stored well. The worrying part is, will the wine be transported to another location from here on, or is it still going to be at the same location? So you can seize the wine, but question is, did you look after the wine?
That's the big question, isn't it? But no one can confirm exactly how authorities are storing the seized assets. This is Singapore's biggest ever money laundering scandal. And while it may sound like a victimless crime, it cannot be ignored because it allows the flourishing of activities like drug trafficking and scams, essentially the source of the funds. For now, we'll just wait and see what happens to the 10 suspects.